And this involves Roberto, Piero, and Dr. Shomali. And there'll be an opportunity for questions and answers. Or you can either take the microphone or put questions into WhatsApp or into the chat. Over to you now. So I'm just going to say a couple of words which are very simple. At the end of these moments that we've lived together this evening, I can't but use words from Christian scripture that come from the heart of Mary, Lady Mary. Great are the things the Lord, the Almighty, has done, and holy is his name. And we are spectators, watching what the omnipotent Lord has done. He so shows us the sanctity of his name, which is greater than our hearts, as Christian scripture says. God is greater than our hearts, greater, bigger than our minds. And the only attitude that we can have to welcome in us and amongst us his omnipotence and the holiness of his name is to be empty within, as Lady Mary was. And we have experienced this together. We have entered together into this experience, this gift. And we've experienced what Chiara Lubick taught us, that Mary, who is with us, will give us the grace to achieve all we want. And because our desires come from God, they must be fulfilled. It's not something in our hands and hands alone. We have seen that during this pandemic, it hasn't been an invention. It's been a time of difficulty, and God maybe has purified our hearts in order to make us go ahead with greater commitment. And as Dr. Shomali and some of you have said, the unity that we have is so strong, it's difficult to describe. Because it's not a unity that comes from us, but from God. It's God who creates unity amongst us. So it can't be described, and it can't be broken. It's a promise, not just for our own personal lives, but it's a promise for the history of humanity. In March, when Pope Francis went to Iraq to visit the Holy City, and the great Ayatollah Sistani, he went to the place from which Abraham went out. And he said that the journey that humankind is on today, is following in the steps and the faith of Abraham. He began moving outwards, not knowing where he was going on the promise that God had made to him. And it's the same for us. We need people who believe in the voice of God, and within their religious traditions, where God has spoken to them, will look to the future, and they will see that there is a goal ahead, even if they don't know what this is. But trust in the omnipotence of God and in his holy name. And as biblical scripture says, you will know that I am God, and you will know my name. We will know the name of God together, his holy name. So this evening it's not just a time to look back together, but it's a new stage in this journey which takes us ahead together, and we will keep this moment in our hearts, in the abyss of God's love where we are one. And we experience this, we experience that God makes us stay in this reality while still on earth. But I am sure that this moment is unique. Jews, Muslims and Christians in the Holy Land are struggling at the moment to find a way ahead, a peaceful way ahead together. So we need a deeper faithfulness amongst ourselves, because he has chosen us. In the little town of Nazareth that nobody knew, he found a young woman who could be the mother of Jesus. And in the same way, in our simpleness and poverty, he's chosen us to make that unity of God shine out in our time, in our age. So we renew this pact of unity from which this light has emerged. And I always remember, we talked about this already, I remember in Tonadico, Chiara once, a long time ago in 1949, she had this moment of light. It was a mystical moment about God, about the design of God. And she understood something about the charism she'd been given. And we prayed. We were there. When we were there, we recalled what Chiara had understood. She'd seen paradise with her own eyes back in 1949. And I remember we prayed. It was time for evening prayer. In 1949, we said, she received from God a gift of light, and now we today, we have been filled with this light. Muslim brothers and sisters, this is the pact which makes us walk ahead together. And I am happy to see you all. And I will always remember, I remember Mohammed, the first time I was in Tehran, there was a message that a very wise person had said. I didn't know what was happening because the language was beyond me. And at a certain moment, he said something that I kind of understood was important before it was translated. And someone said, I don't need a translation any longer because I've seen that you understand beyond words. So I can say that we are united, we are one, beyond time and space. In Canada, in London, in Tehran, we are one in spite of the time and space because we're one in God. Because in God, there's another dimension, the dimension of unity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My soul magnifies the Lord God, because he has done great things, and may his name be holy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For Shomali.
Dr. Shomali,
Yes.
over to you again.
Maybe Roberto, you can talk first.
But I think that if you say something, I just say a word about an experience. Today I was in Sofia.
Yes.
For the first time in 2 years, I had a final class, a class in presence. Otherwise, everything is through Zoom right now, as you know, at a distance. And I realized it was the last class of the course, and the students who are attending this course are the same who are attending also the other course on dialogue, which we opened this year in Sofia, Theorethics of Dialogue. And today we had a final session with a deep moment of sharing. And I realized how much in Sofia dialogue can really have the dimension of a vocation, of a call, which comes from above, and how much the experience of Wings of Unity can be part of this process, because dialogue is not a profession, dialogue is not a choice you make, dialogue is a call from God, who leads you into a terrain, a ground which you don't know, which is a sacred ground where you experience his presence. And this cannot be taught. This cannot be put into words at times. It can be lived that only people who are called to this experience can understand this.
Thank you very much. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I would like to have time to receiving your questions or comments. So I just say very briefly, I agree with everything that Piero said and Roberto. As Piero said, great are the things that the Lord has done. And I think for us, just to be able to understand the will of God and open ourselves to the will of God and let God's message, God's light, God's love go through us to reach others, I think that would be great achievement. I don't think we can have any role better than just letting God work and not interfere in a negative way. So thanks to God, our relation has reached the point that when I listen to Piero or Roberto or other Focolare friends, I don't think they are Christians, I am Muslim. I am aware of that, of course, but that is not filtering my understanding. That is not a thing that puts me into unrest or in a uncomfortable situation. I sense that a person who is deeply connected to God and has tried for all their lives to understand the will of God is talking to me, and there is no fear here. There is no even kind of unrest. Indeed, it's quite opposite. When I hear something from them and I can relate to it, the chance of this being mistaken or sectarian or somehow my own, I don't know, limitations become less, because I know if something is connecting our traditions, the chance of that being rooted in God is more. I see in our commonalities presence of God is more. So this is a great experience, and thanks to God, in our theology and spirituality, we are able to make sense of this. We are not in suffering a conflict inside, that my theology says something, but I feel spiritually something else. So thanks to God, one of the beauties of our relation has been that we were able to reflect theologically and spiritually also experience, and now we have a version of authentic, or what I think is authentic, for example, Shia theology and Shia spirituality, and maybe for you the same, authentic Catholic theology and spirituality that would bring us together. Not that keep us just watching each other carefully. My theology and my spirituality are pushing me towards you. And I think this is a great achievement, because many people, when they were working for unity, they had this difficulty that they had to push their theology and stretch it, and sometimes maybe for a moment say goodbye to theology and just do spiritual things. Or if they wanted to be committed to theology, they had to say goodbye to spirituality. But thanks to God, we have come along with both mind and heart. We are not emotionally doing this or just intellectually doing. We are doing both with mind and heart. And I think this is great. And I am very grateful to God for this gift of unity that we have. Few weeks ago, we had a event with Cardinal Fitzgerald for Scotland about the document Human Fraternity. And I said, in the past, I used to think, like many other people, that we Muslims and Christians have common doctrines and have differences. So I was looking just like a theoretical map, that those who are Shia are closer to me than Muslims. Then the wider circle is Abrahamic believers in Abrahamic faith, and then believers in God in non-Abrahamic, and like this. So the circles were getting wider and wider. And this is okay, but this is just theory. Now I say, if we say the center is God, and not the theology or the doctrines. If the center is God, whoever is closer to God is closer to the center. And if I try to get closer to the center, then I would not see only Shia are in the center, or only Muslims, or for you only Catholics or Christians. We would be able to see that close to God are the people who may belong to different traditions, but they have really devoted themselves to God. This doesn't mean that theology is not important. This means that theology has to help to reach this point of submission to God, to the best of your knowledge, to the best of availabilities. So it has been very enriching experience for me, and I have been able to understand many things in our different rounds of dialogue, Wings of Unity dialogue. And this is why I have always looked forward to these meetings, because some of the important topics, just when we were talking and we were in Loppiano in Sofia, were becoming clearer. But in the way that it's like a straight line. It's not like you are deviating or coming back and forth. But it's just understanding, as Piero said, what is the rest? We, like Abraham, he didn't know where God is going to take him. So I hope we, as followers of Abraham, also we would be able to leave God the control and the command, and we together listen to him as children of God. When we are with God, we cannot say we are adults. When we are with God, we are even not children. We are just babies. So I'm very grateful for this experience. I'm grateful to my Focolare brothers and sisters in general, and in Wings of Unity. All of you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Grazie a te, dottor Shomali.
Thank you, Dr. Shomali.
You're welcome.
Adesso arriviamo alla parte
Now we come to the conclusion.
risposte.
A short time for questions and answers. I think there have been quite a good few coming through on the chat. Maybe we can group them together, and then we'll hand over to our panel. And we'll leave a little bit of time for the people in the hall too. Thank you. Few questions, but many thanks as well. People who were delighted to see everyone's faces again. I'm going to put two questions together. That the wings of unity, this image, in order to function well, the air currents have to work as well. Where are the air currents carrying the bird ahead, these wings ahead, so that we can be filled with light? And then another question is, how can this dialogue contribute to current situation, particularly regarding the ecological issues that we're facing, care of the earth, so that this dialogue can be an expression of the harmony of the universe? Who's going to answer? Maybe each one of you will say something.
Piero, please.
Well, the breath, the air current that carries the wings ahead. What's the air current today saying? I think that we need to be able to grasp the signs in which the Spirit of God is expressing himself. Thinking of the journey of the visit Pope Francis made to Iraq, this was a strong sign. Looking at Abraham, let's remember the great religious traditions. Let's go back to their roots. And as Dr. Shomali said, let's open up new frontiers, because I think the current today is drawing us towards a new spirituality, to give us new eyes to look at our lives, to look at our traditions and cultures of which we are part, to have new eyes, which is given us if we are open to God and if we open up to one another. And I feel this is the direction that we're going in, but this requires a conversion regarding the way we live, our lifestyles, and it has to start from the roots. It has to be something that we share in. I've been impressed to see some signs that there are in different areas of Europe about what's happening in Palestine. People are saying, not in my name. People are saying, this has got nothing to do with me. People are separating themselves from this violence. And we've seen that young people are beginning to say, you can't do certain things in my name. It's against humanity, against God. This has nothing to do with the way I want to live. And I think this is also true because of this transition that we're making in as regards care of the earth, an ecological transition, a rediscovery of God, of our neighbours, of nature. And I think the reality that we've experienced during the pandemic is like an alarm. It's like someone saying, look, unless you change direction, you're going to go off the beaten track, off the road, you're going to get lost. Because yes, care of the earth, fraternity, prayer, they're all needed. And I don't think the end of the pandemic is going to change this automatically. I think we have to continue the battle, because the battle, like jihad, has to be made against one's own self in order to listen to that breath of God. I thank God because of my Muslim brothers and sisters, because if you can keep your minds pure so that your heart can be pure as well, this is what I pray for you and our environments in which we live. How many young people have got the opportunity to understand this purity, this beauty, this breath of God which carries us ahead? So this is what I think. I have great faith and hope because the love of God is stronger than anything. I will overcome the world. The love of God will overcome. Maybe we need to give our lives. Martyrdom, your sheer tradition understands that. It's very concrete. That we have to live a martyrdom each day almost in small ways. But I have great faith. And because we can do this together, if we Christians and Muslims can do this together, what a wonderful thing it will be. If we can manage to do our part, what can the world hope for so much? I think there's something irreversible that has begun. And I repeat, because the other day the ambassador in Iran met Pope Francis, and there was something very deep happening. So we're like a little pebble in a big construction of civilization.
Thank you very much. I also think that God, in His own way, is pushing us towards unity. And when there is more darkness, the chance of God's intervention is more. You know, the flash of light normally comes in the night, not during the day. So it's not that important how many you are if you are working for God. The main thing is to make sure that you are working for God, not for yourself or for anyone else. So if we manage to work for God and for cause of God, which is unity, we shouldn't worry about anything else. How many people we are just few people, how many problems are in the world. History always shows that people who did great things, they were not great in number necessarily, and they were not great in equipments or money, etc. The main thing was they were united among themselves and they were sincere in their intention. So I am very hopeful that even if, you know, some small numbers of people really get this idea and extend it to different traditions and different parts of the world, and we can have that lake of unity, many other people then want to join. When the document of human fraternity was signed by the Pope and Sheikh of Al-Azhar, we took it in a very positive way. And it didn't matter to me at all that it was signed by a Sunni imam or leader. I took it as a work of God. And we did our best to promote that by writing articles, by having events, etc. And when I heard that the Pope is planning to go to Iraq and meet Grand Ayatollah Sistani in Najaf, it was like a dream. If it was to my imagination, I could not imagine that can happen so soon. I could imagine maybe after years of work, you know, but in this difficult time, when even people cannot go back to their home countries for the Pope to decide to go to a very difficult country like Iraq with all the challenges of security and then pandemic, and then deciding to go and visit Ayatollah Sistani, and Ayatollah Sistani welcoming that and opening his home and holding hands of each other. I think this is just work of God. And I was so worried that anything last minute can happen. They were saying that this person got COVID, that person got COVID in Ayatollah's office or in Vatican's embassy. So the day I saw the picture, then I was relaxed. Thanks to God it happened. Now no one can reverse it. It has happened. And I think that is one of the signs of our time. And that we have God's work in different levels. At the level of the Pope and Grand Ayatollah, at the level of us, at different levels, God is working. So I am very hopeful, and I think, as Piero said, we can get many lessons from this pandemic. And one of them is that our destiny is connected. You cannot just think that if you are in a country with, I don't know, best medical facilities, etc., you can be safe and immune. We need to preserve the whole globe. We need to preserve the whole humanity. And I think this is a great lesson. So we are very hopeful, but as Piero again said, this is something that needs martyrdom. This needs sacrifice. This is not something that we can just enjoy ourselves and watch it happen. It needs dedication. It needs sacrifice. It needs freeing ourselves from any unnecessary attachment. Any unnecessary attachment can keep us separate from God. So we need to free ourselves.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shomali.
Thank you. Thank you.
C'è qualcuno in sala che vorrebbe
Is there anyone in the hall who wants to ask a question?
Ecco. Se puoi avvicinarti al microfono qui
Can
davanti.
you use the microphone?
Puoi presentarti anche? Sì, buonasera. Io mi chiamo
Good evening.
Catalano dall'Ungheria e adesso
I come from Hungary.
alla scuola delle coppe.
I'm following the school for the Focolare. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for this evening,
Nel vostro
so that we have been able to share in your project. For me, it's been so beautiful to see the unity that you've built.
anche Gesù, anche Chiara.
And I feel that people in heaven, like Jesus, like Chiara Lubik, are celebrating. But the question I have,
Questi giovani
the young people who have taken part,
ritornando a casa
when they go home,
hanno provato a portare avanti questo dialogo.
and I'm sure they've tried to take this dialogue ahead, what experience have they had after the Wings of Unity projects? For them, for their lives, in their everyday life, politically as well, what's their experience? I think you have to answer, you people. some of the people who have taken part in the projects. From my experience, I would say it was a complete changing point in my life in a very positive way, because I think Piero's explained this. We've seen, I had an experience of God, which I'd never had with such intensity before. And this has given me hope. I think Piero said this regarding the future, because I think this is the way ahead. And I think it's important to have this experience because it's only by having it. I think people in the hall here believe this. But when you live it, something new happens. It's more concrete. The difficulties remain, obviously. We're learning, work in progress. But we're convinced that we want to give our lives for this. And we know it's possible. I love my Muslim brothers and sisters who've shared this experience. I miss them. And this evening together is a real joy for me. We go ahead together. I'm with them, they're with me. And we'll see what God is preparing. That's what I'd say. I don't know if any of my Shia friends would like to say something. They'd need to be quite brief.
Yes.
The question that the good lady raised just before this about what you felt and what was the change in life when I went before and after Loppiano. I mean, it was like going back into my childhood. And because when I reached Loppiano in the car and I saw the rich forests and all that, the effect that it had on me was basically where I grew up. I was in the tribal areas in India, where my father was an engineer in a firm. And it was in the tribal areas, and it was very lush and natural. And the interaction that you have when you're a child or a young person is very open. You don't judge or prejudge people. It was that kind of a feeling where you are there without any judgment. Because we were all, me and my wife were very apprehensive. Of course, we're going to a new place in such an international gathering of different religions. We were obviously very apprehensive and nervous and anxious of what it's going to be like. But the good thing was that it was so open, and it showed to me that despite all the darkness in the world, there are societies and there are people here who can transcend boundaries of religion and culture and countries and can live as humanity. And really, I said to you, Sheikh Shomali, before that I've seen Islam being practiced here. When I saw in Loppiano sharing of each other, helping each other without expectation from each other, just giving for the sake of giving for the love of God and in unity. And the experience that I had then, I've always kept it and hopefully tried to enhance it by saying that we are working towards what our doctrine teaches, or tradition teaches, so that, when the Imam comes along with Jesus alayhi salam, they will work together to bring and establish justice and peace on this earth. So I would like to thank Dr. Shomali for insisting that I visit Loppiano once. And first time it didn't work out in 2018 because of work or whatever it was. But 2019 we made it, and was very glad to hear Dr. Coda and Dr. Roberto speak and meet all the people from the Focolare there. And the way we lived over there, no air conditioning, all in nature, and the food was very natural, not industrialized food that we live in London cities we get in supermarkets. That was very, very interesting. So I have kept it, and hopefully was hoping this year that we'll go again sometime, but we'll see, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Grazie mille.
Thank you.
Mi piace, però
I'm sorry, but I think we need to end here. If someone's got a really burningly important question, you can send it to us and we'll email it to Dr. Shomali and Dr. Coda. So thank you to everyone. I think it's been a moment of being a family. That's what Chiara always asked for. She said, be a family, because where there's a family, there's God. Dr. Shomali.
Hope to see you
Thank you.
as soon as possible. Un grande abbraccio anche a Manas.
Big hug to Manaz.
Thank you.
A presto.
See you soon.
See you soon.